All right, you ready for this? We're diving into something that's got everyone talking. Is the SEC still top dog? Or are we seeing like a changing of the guard? You guys sent in some seriously passionate articles and social media posts, and whoa, some of these opinions are wild.
Yeah, it's crazy how just one season can totally turn everything upside down, I mean, the SEC has been dominant, that's for sure, but this year's got everyone questioning everything.
Right. For years, it's almost been like, okay, the SEC is the best, end of story. All those national championships, especially in the last, 20 years, 14 champions and 6 runners-up. That's a dynasty.
No doubt. And that kind of success, it creates this whole narrative, right? It's like wins lead to more wins, which brings in the best players, the top coaches. You can't talk about the SEC without talking about guys like Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. Those guys didn't just win, they changed the game. Everyone else was playing catch up.
Totally. They set the standard.
Yeah.
But, we got to talk about the media, too. You send over some articles about ESPN and how they cover the SEC, and some fans are saying, hold up, is ESPN pushing this SEC is the best idea? Because, well, it's good for their business. They're the main broadcaster, right, for the SEC in the playoffs. So it benefits them if everyone thinks the SEC is the only game in town.
It's true. The media can have a huge impact on how we see things. And when you combine that with the SEC actually winning all the time, well, you can see how that image of dominance really stuck. But then 2024 happened and things got a little messy.
2024 was a wild ride. Big SEC teams took some hits, especially the bowl games. Georgia, the national champs, taken down by Notre Dame. And a lot of people were saying Notre Dame's success was because they were smart about using the transfer portal to get better.
That Notre Dame game, that was a real turning point. People started asking questions. And then there's the elephant in the room. Alabama, losing to Michigan. Okay, on paper, it's 1 loss. But some people are saying it feels like, 5 losses in 1.
Whoa, 5 losses in 1. Okay, explain that one.
It's all about context. You got players skipping bowl games to get ready for the NFL draft. You got the transfer portal shuffling rosters like crazy. It's a totally different game now, that Alabama team. Maybe they were still super talented, but things are so unpredictable now that it makes you wonder. And, speaking of things being unpredictable, that tweet you sent from Connor Stallions, the one about strength of schedule, that was spot on.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one. He was basically saying all those preseason rankings. With the transfer portal, they're not worth much anymore. Teams change so much. So a team that looks tough in the preseason might be totally different by bowl season.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole parity thing so interesting. When talent moves around more freely, it's harder to stay on top. It's harder to build a dynasty.
It's almost like college football has free agency now. And then you throw NIL into the mix. Things get even crazier. Now players can actually make money off their name, their image. That changes recruiting. It changes how players decide where to play. Some people are even saying it's like the old days, but out in the open now. Back when players were supposedly getting paid under the table, the whole bagman thing.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue for sure. NIL has made things more transparent financially, but it's also brought up concerns about, fairness. Is it really a level playing field? It's too early to say for sure what the long-term impact will be, but it's definitely changed the game.
Absolutely. It seems like teams that weren't so good before, they're using the portal to close the gap. Good teams are losing players. The average teams are getting better. So the big question is, what are the top programs, like the ones in the SEC, doing about it? How are they adapting to this new world?
That's the key question. And it's not just about NIL and the portal. We also have to look at coaching. For a long time, it felt like Saban and Meyer had the magic touch. Nobody else could keep up. But now we're seeing a new generation of coaches coming in, and they're proving they can win too.
That's right. Coaching has always mattered, but it feels like it matters even more now with all this other stuff going on. So are we saying the SEC's reign is over? Is it the end of an era?
Well, I wouldn't count them out just yet. The SEC's got plenty of fight left. Look, even with those bowl game losses, they still had a winning record against the other Power 5 conferences, 20 wins and 10 losses. That doesn't sound like a conference that's falling apart.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people are saying 2024 was just a fluke, a weird year,
Yeah.
They think the SEC will figure things out and be back on top in no time.
And let's not forget about the talent pool in the SEC. It's still incredible. Think about the NFL draft year after year. So many of those guys come from SEC schools.
Yeah, like if you're a high school kid who dreams of going pro, you're looking at the SEC, right?
Exactly. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. And the SEC, you're good at adapting, new rules, changes in the game. They always find a way.
So we've got these two sides, right? On one hand, the SEC has this history of winning, tons of talent. On the other hand, Upsets are happening, the transfer portal is changing everything, and NIL is adding a whole new dimension. It feels like college football is at a crossroads.
It really does, and that's what makes it so interesting. We're watching it all happen right now. We don't know how it's going to end, and that makes everything more intense. Every game, every recruiting decision.
It's like a new chapter every season.
Mhm.
And we're right in the middle of it, trying to figure out what it all means.
And that's where we have to think critically. We can't just follow the headlines or get caught up in the hype. We got to analyze what's happening, look deeper than just the wins and losses, figure out why players and coaches are making the decisions they're making.
You can't just scratch the surface. So what are the questions we should be asking as we watch all this play out?
The big one for me, is this a temporary thing or is this a real shift towards parity in college football? Will the big programs figure out how to stay on top? Or will we see more teams from more conferences having a real shot at the national championship?
Yeah, that's the big question. And how will the transfer portal and NIL keep changing things? Will they make things more equal? Or will the top programs find a way to use them to their advantage?
And coaching, don't forget about coaching. Will these new coaches keep shaking things up? Or will things go back to how they were with all the best coaches at the same few programs?
So many questions. It's kind of overwhelming, but it's also exciting, right?
Yeah.
College football is always unpredictable. The fans are passionate. And right now, anything feels possible.
Absolutely. And that's why we can't just sit back and watch. We got to stay engaged, keep asking those questions, and try to understand what's really going on because the answers aren't going to just appear out of thin air.
Right. We have to figure it out ourselves. So what should we be looking for? What are the clues that will help us understand how college football is changing?
Well, recruiting is always a good place to start. You got to look at where the top high school players are going. Are they still picking SEC schools? Or are they spreading out, choosing different conferences?
Yeah, makes sense. Recruiting is like the foundation, right? And then there's the transfer portal. It's not just about the numbers. It's about who's going where and why. Are the top teams holding on to their players? Or are they losing guys to programs that are offering something better?
And that something better, a lot of times it comes down to NIL. Look at how different schools are using those NIL deals. Are they going after big-name recruits? Or are they taking care of the players they already have,
Right.
trying to build loyalty?
Right. NIL is a wild card. It could make the rich get richer, or it could totally change the game. And hey, we can't forget about the coaches. Watch those coaching changes, because that can tell you a lot about where a program is headed.
Oh, for sure. A new coach can bring in a whole new system, a new philosophy. It can really shake things up. Sometimes that's all it takes for a team to start winning.
So we got to be paying attention to everything. Recruiting, the transfer portal, NIL deals, coaching changes. It's a lot. But that's what makes college football so fun right now. It's like we're watching a movie, and we don't know how it's going to end.
I know, right? And that's the beauty of it. This one season, it doesn't give us all the answers, but it does make us ask some really interesting questions. The SEC might still be the big dog, but everyone else is catching up. So what does this mean for the fans? It means get ready for some amazing football. We might be entering a time when any team can win it all.
It's not a guarantee that the SEC makes the playoffs anymore. We might see some teams come out of nowhere, teams nobody thought had a chance, and suddenly they're in the championship game.
Imagine that. A team that's been building in the shadows, nobody paying attention, and now they have a chance to shock the world. That's what makes this so exciting.
It's like the underdog story, but on a whole new level. And who knows, maybe some of these underdog teams will become the new dynasties. Or maybe things will change every year. Nobody stays on top for long. Either way, it's going to be awesome.
Exactly. And the best part, we get to be a part of it. We get to watch it all happen. So stay curious, keep asking those questions, and let's see where this crazy ride takes us.
Yeah, this is just the beginning, right? Who knows what the future of college football holds? It's going to be wild.
Yeah.